Hi, my name is Thomas Presley. Today I'm going to show you how I upgraded and detailed one of my most favorite steam locomotives, the Southern number 4501 Mikado. The 4501 was first purchased by the Southern Railroad in 1911 and spent many decades in active service. However, in the late 50s, it was soon phased out, like other steam engines of the day, by newer diesel locomotives. It wasn't until the mid-1960s when the Tennessee Valley Railway Museum restored it and put it in excursion service on the Norfolk Southern Steam Program for about 3 decades, until it had to undergo further restoration in 1998. Then in 2014, that restoration was complete and the 4501 took part in the 21st Century Steam Program. Now this model of the 4501 was made by Lionel Trains Incorporated. It was featured in the 1992 Book 1 catalog. It was one of the last 3 high-end engines Mike Wolf was contracted to produce for Lionel in Korea, the other 2 being the Shea and the PA-1 Alco. Interestingly enough, even though there have been many models of the 4501 made over the years in O-gauge, this Lionel model is the only one that captures the 4501 with the accurate bodied style. Most of the other ones use the USRA light Mikado design, which has many differences. Mostly in the shape of the running board right here, which is much different, and the overall boiler design up front, as well as the cab design towards the back. Also taking into account that the Southern 4501's tender was actually a 210-2 tendered model design, not the original USRA light Mikado design, at least for the majority of its excursion service though. Also that the 4501 has become most famous as the Green Mikado, mostly because during its time in the Norfolk Southern Steam Program, it was painted in the same green and gold paint scheme that was used on the Crescent locomotives that the Southern Railroad used to have in the 20s. In addition, the 4501 made a special appearance in one of my all-time favorite movies, October Sky, starring Jake Gyllenhaal, and even featured the legendary railroad photographer O. Winston Link in the cab for that cameo shot, who sadly passed away a couple years after the movie was released. So the 4501 has definitely got a special place in my heart of steam locomotives. Now, the original 4501 did not have this green paint scheme. It was painted in a more regular black appearance. But for the majority of its program, it was painted this way, and personally I prefer this paint scheme because it really makes the engine stand out, and I think makes the engine a lot more beautiful. Not that there's anything wrong with the black paint scheme, but it's just green is a very nice color, and it really does this engine justice and really makes it stand out. Now, when this engine first came out in 1992, it was strictly a conventional locomotive, though there were many things that made it a little bit more different than the other Lionel locomotives at the time. One of the most important things was that instead of the AC pole motor that was used in many other engines like the Hudsons, this was the first Lionel high-end steam locomotive that came with a maintenance-free DC can motor installed, which allowed the engine to run much more slowly, quietly, run without any maintenance, and could pull trains a lot better. Also in addition with that this engine came with 4 traction tires on the driving wheels. Also what it had at the time was a QSI electronic reversing unit housed in the tender. This was the same electronic reversing unit that was used in many other manufacturers' locomotives, including Weaver and MGH at the time. The other conventional features that this locomotive had was the old-fashioned Lionel heater element smoke unit, which used a piston to draw the smoke out in little puffs at each time, as well as the old-fashioned Lionel RailSounds 1.0 sound system that was housed in the tender. Now, as a kid, I really liked this sound system because I used to watch Tom McComas and James Toohey's video magazine called Toy Train Review, and they played those rail sounds all the time, pretty much, so that stuck in my head as a child. Now, as nostalgic as I am to that, and as much as I like it, I knew that if I wanted to do this engine a lot more justice, so I decided to remove the old sound system, upgrade it to Trainmaster Command Control, and really get it up to the standard that I would like it personally. The first thing for me when upgrading this locomotive was to gut out all the old electronics so that the new electronics would fit in. So I had to get rid of the old Lionel RailSounds 1.0 double stack board that looks like this, and the old-fashioned speaker and amp board right here. In its place, I put in an electric railroad cruise board, which is very easy to install. It's basically a plop-in TMCC receiver, two boards, which that go. All you have to do is screw them in and just attach the antenna to the top, and you're pretty much ready to go. Though in this case, since the Southern Mikado's tender body was metal, I had to insulate it from the frame so that way the whole body functions as the antenna, so the antenna is totally insulated. So they obviously have to, way to insulate it is use Captain tape, which is a very thin tape, right, that'll very easily put the body back on, unlike electrical tape, which is much thicker, and to use these nylon screws to totally insulate it. The last changes I had to do with the tender was to upgrade the sound system of the locomotive. Now, I wanted to get the engine to sound very close to the real 4501, and for me the best way was to find a Lionel RailSounds 5.0 board off of a Pennsylvania American Flyer Mikado, which had a very good sounding whistle, very good sounding bell, and very good chuffing that sounded really close to the prototype in my mind. Now I understand that the crew talk and the tower comm are not specific to the engine road name or road number, but as Eric Siegel once said, if you don't like the crew talk, you just don't have to use it. Now the next thing I had to do was find new lighting material, because the original lighting, if I just wired it to the electric railroad cruise boards, they would probably blow themselves out right away. So for me, the best way to do it without buying much more material or resistors was to purchase the ones from Evans of Model Train Software. They're a great product and they're very easy to install. They come right with resistors wired right to them. Though for the classification lights up front, I went a little extra. I purchased 2 grain of wheat yellow bulbs to put into the classification lights right here, because the original Lionel Mikado came with red classification lights, which I didn't think looked more as appropriate, though in all respect, if I did go all appropriate, those classification bulbs would be white. But most of the photos that have the classification lights on have the yellowish glow of incandescent bulbs, so I went with that way. Though to wire them, I did have to wire them in a reverse parallel fashion and with a special resistor. Also at the time I installed a Henning Super Chuffer board from John Will, which will synchronize the chuffing sound of the locomotive to however I want. In this case I wanted 4 chuffs per revolution like the real steam locomotives do. I also took the liberty to put in an MTH smoke unit inside, but at the moment I couldn't get it to work, so I probably will do a follow-up video with it running. So if you don't see smoke in the video, don't get too nitpicky. Last but not least, for upgrading this locomotive was to add some cosmetic details that I think would improve it. In this case, I decided to use some Testor's white paint and a very small paintbrush to paint the wheel tires of the locomotive, both the driving wheels, the trailing truck, and the pilot truck, with white rims, just like the real locomotive did. And also to paint the edge of the cow catcher and the pilot deck right up here white, just like the real locomotive did. And in all honesty, it actually does make the locomotive look a lot better and stand out better. Okay, so to wrap up this video, I'm going to put the 4501 on the layout and give it a good run. In this case, because I was attending the Somerset County 4-H Fair with my fellow Somerset County 4-H Trainmasters Club, I was able to get this engine a good long running out of it on our big layout, which is command control equipped, and you'll really get to see how much better this engine operates and sounds with electric rail cruise. It operates creeps just like a real train, and I'm very happy with the sound system that I choose. It just sounds terrific. And all in all, I gotta say, it was a very tedious task to upgrade this locomotive, but I'm very happy with the end results, and I'm very happy that I did it on my own, with, of course, help from all these train guys who are so fantastic with their knowledge in the hobby. Anyway, that's it for this video. My name is Thomas Presley, and I'll see you in the next video.